So are you getting sort of the grab bag effect of this morning? There's a lot of different sectors represented, a lot of different issues that you're hearing about, but hopefully because you all work in the wide variety of these sectors, it's touching little bits for each of you and introducing each of you to new ideas. We're also hearing from players who are acting differently, big foundations that are acting differently, banks that are acting differently. And I'm excited to welcome to the stage Ruben Teague from Prudential, who's going to talk about the ways that they understood their role as a citizen of Newark and made some investments there that are really a way that a bank is acting very differently than we've heard before. So please welcome Ruben.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ruben Teague. I'm a director of impact investing at Prudential, and I'm here today to talk about two of my favorite things. They are both things that I could ramble on about for like an hour at a time. This is going to be a very condensed version of that. If you want the hour-long version, I'll be around afterwards. Come find me. Happy to do that. And if you really like it and you want to come to Newark and get a tour, I like giving those as well. So my two favorite things, Prudential. They don't pay me to say that, though they are paying me while I'm saying that. And Newark, which has been Prudential's home for 140 years. Newark, for those of you who don't know, and I didn't know before I started working at Pru, has an incredible history as a capital of manufacturing and commercial activity. This is a slide showing the Four Corners intersection, which is at the heart of the city. And in 1925, they did a survey there, and they found that there were 150 streetcars an hour and 100 buses an hour and 15,000 pedestrians every hour passing through that intersection. It was, at the time, declared, and this is the kind of thing they did in the 20s, the busiest intersection in America. This is the Haynes department store, a 400,000 square foot department store right at the heart of downtown Newark. This was just one of several department stores of that size that was there at that time. This is where everybody came in to do their shopping. It was an amazing place, walnut paneling everywhere and people pulling up in their carriages with white gloves. This is the former headquarters of a little small business in Newark known as Prudential. This was another really beautiful example of architecture in downtown Newark. This was our headquarters from 1890 to 1950 or so. And then things changed. Newark had this incredible high point in the early part of the 20th century. And then there was this transformation that took place in the middle part of the 20th century, which I think many people are sort of familiar with generally, and Newark is analogous to a lot of other cities around the country. This chart just shows the way in which the racial makeup of the city changed. It went from being a 98% white city to a majority African American city. And as 100,000 African Americans migrated to Newark from the American South, looking for jobs in what had been that manufacturing and commercial hub, they got to a city that was actually losing those jobs. Those jobs were disappearing. They were going to other parts of the United States. They were going out to the suburbs. The advent of the automobile meant that people left. And then redlining meant that those newcomers to Newark weren't able to buy houses, and they weren't able to move out to the suburbs and buy a house. The population overall started to decline. It peaked in 1950 and headed downward. And again, this is analogous to a number of other U.S. cities that had that same kind of manufacturing and commercial base and lost the base and lost the population as the dynamics of the population changed. And though the composition of the people who lived in Newark changed really dramatically over that time, the power structure in Newark did not change with the population. And what that meant was that by the middle of the 20th century, you had a majority African American city where those black and brown people were basically shut out from jobs with the city, jobs with the police department, jobs as teachers, and you had a city administration that was essentially not failing to take note of the fact that this population had changed. And so you had what I think many people see as kind of the nadir in Newark's history, the Newark Uprising in 1967. Again, paralleling what was going on in a lot of other cities around the country. Over 20 people died across 6 days of violence. It was a terrible time for Newark. And as a consequence of that decline in population, that decline in commercial investment in the city only accelerated and deepened. Many businesses left. That said, sorry, this slide shows some of the blight and blighted conditions that were left behind as the population decreased. This second photo is that Hain building, that incredible, glorious 400,000 square foot department store. This is what its condition was in 2013 after being shuttered for more than 30 years. But the city, Newark, as a location, as a place, has some incredible assets. It's got major corporate headquarters, not just Prudential, but others. It has got over 40,000 students. It's got 3 rail links to Manhattan. It's got, as you would say in the real estate community, it's got good bones. And Prudential, following all of this social turmoil, made a decision to stick around. In 1967, we actually, shortly after the Newark uprising concluded, Prudential made the commitment to build more office space in Newark for our employees. In 1976, the company created my unit, which was then called the Social Investments Unit, and formed the Prudential Foundation and started making direct investments and contributions to organizations that were going to make Newark a better place for its residents in the long run. In 2010, we renewed our commitment by building a new office tower in downtown Newark. It's quite beautiful. There's a picture of it later. Since 2008, we've made $90 million in grants to Newark, $250 million in impact investments. That's produced jobs, it's produced market rate housing, it's produced affordable housing, it's produced 3 new hotels. We're going to have a Whole Foods opening there in the first quarter of next year. We've invested in charter school construction. Charter schools are on pace to educate about 40% of Newark students in the coming years. We have been catalyzing this stuff across the economic spectrum because that's what's necessary in order to take those great bones of Newark and make it a really terrific place to live, work, and play. Here are just a few pictures to sort of show some of the things that we've done. This is a picture showing an unfortunately common condition in Newark, and I think in a lot of cities, which is that surface parking lot that just sort of sits there in the middle of downtown and is dead and depressing and empty when people go home from work. That's actually where we built our new tower. That's what it looks like today. And it's across the street from Military Park, and you can see the difference between those two slides. Military Park was a major philanthropic endeavor of Prudential to try to make that park a really wonderful common ground for all of Newarkers. This is a map of some of the major developments downtown. It's probably impossible to read from out there, so just take my word for it when I say that all of those little boxes represent a really important investment in the future of Newark and turning that downtown into a great 24/7 location. Right now, the density of downtown from a population standpoint is less than the population density in downtown Lincoln, Nebraska. It's about 1/8 what it is in Jersey City, which is the next adjacent major city. We just don't have enough people and enough activity there for it to feel like a really great place. So we've concentrated a lot of our investment activity there in order to build that back up into a really great hub. Here's the Hotel Indigo. This was a vacant office building. It was vacant for 30 years. We helped finance the redevelopment of that building into a really wonderful hotel to bring travelers and visitors into Newark. This is one of the first hotels to be built in downtown Newark in over 40 years. This is North Star Academy, an extremely high-performing charter school. North Star actually recently was ranked, I think, the #2 non-selective public high school in the state of New Jersey. It outperforms extremely high resource suburban schools, which I think is a testament both to what people can do if you give them the right resources and the right opportunity, the incredible commitment of Newarkers to their own education and to the education of their children, and to the innovation that is afoot in a lot of cities out there. This is another vacant surface parking lot that's been transformed into Teachers Village. Teachers Village is housing for teachers, for working people, as well as space for 3 schools and a bunch of retail space in what was, as you saw, just formerly kind of a forlorn section of downtown. But investing in all this space, all these physical assets is just not enough, right? Building buildings doesn't really change the fundamental problem. Everything we do has to track back to people, and it has to track back to Newarkers. This is a picture of 3 young people who participate in an organization called Youth Build. Youth Build is a national and even an international organization that Prudential has a deep partnership with. And in Newark, we're working to figure out how do we take these young people and make sure that they end up getting the jobs on the development projects that we're financing. A lot of real estate development comes with lip service to broader economic development, to local hiring, to MBE participation, and frequently those promises are just not met. We're trying to take those commitments very, very seriously and tackle it at the supply end so that the response can't be, there aren't enough people to do these jobs. We know that there are. We just need to make those partnerships and make those connections. Here's another great business, Arrow Farms. It's a vertical farm that we've helped fund in Newark, very passionately committed to hiring Newarkers and hiring young people. 1/3 of their workforce comes from Newark, and many of those people would have a difficult time being hired into conventional jobs. So, now is the point in the talk where I give you the message. The message is, when I heard Jed Emerson speak yesterday, he talked about the long arc all the way through history of what we do here. We are trying to take that long view. This talk looks back at the history of the city and thinks about the future of that city, and I think that's important for all of us to place ourselves within that arc so that the problems we're trying to address, the things we're trying to do in the future, connect to that history, which is extremely meaningful and ordinarily has a lot to do with how we got to where we are today. Like I said, if you like what I've said or you're interested in it, please come visit us in Newark. I would love to show you around. Thank you very much.